Hello and welcome to episode 87 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the stream of dreams, the show of shows, and everything in between. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree, linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads. You know what? You love it. I am here this week. Some quick housekeeping news. This week is a little light on content. Working Good Friday, so I really only had 2 days off. And I did not get a chance to stream. Yesterday we would have been streaming something, and that's all there is to it. I would have streamed, but I couldn't. And I can't stream tomorrow either. Again, working the Good Friday, but we are here and we have a meaty, a beefy, a thick, a vascular podcast to chew through today. A huge amount of news to get to. A new Marvel game has been announced, and I'm not talking Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, which we talked about last week. We got some rumors, some speculation about Resident Evil 9, which has not been announced, not been confirmed, but a little bit of rumors, speculation going around. We have a huge amount of news to get through. Plus, I have been playing Horizon Forbidden West, the PC version of Horizon Forbidden West. We're going to talk about it. And in fact, we're going to do things a little out of order today. We're actually going to talk about the games that I have been playing and then get to the news. There is a huge amount of news to get through, but because Horizon Forbidden West, a big PC release, I'm excited to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it at the top of the show instead of waiting towards the end. Now, if you're watching the video version or watching the Twitch version, you might be thinking to yourself, GnittWitt, what are you sipping on? I am sipping on green tea. I am potentially going to change up my caffeine intake philosophy, my behaviors and actions. And the reason I'm thinking about doing that, especially like in the context of on stream, is because I don't want to like feel funky, weird throat business, drinking coffee, stuff that has cream, stuff that has sugar in it. So I'm instead sipping on this like berry flavored green tea. I still get that caffeine kick. Ain't that a kick in the head? As well as something that isn't full of nonsense to impact the old instruments that we are working with here. So if you see me sipping, I am sipping on that that berry flavored green tea, and that's what I'm going to be sipping on throughout the podcast. But let's talk about Horizon Forbidden West. But in order to talk about Horizon Forbidden West, I actually want to talk a little bit about Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, for those who are Horizon curious, there's no, I'm not going to talk spoilers. I'm not going to talk specific story beats or anything like that. But I really liked Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought Horizon Zero Dawn was a fantastic game. I played a bit of it on PS4 at some point, and then I kind of stopped playing it and moved on to the PC version when that came out. Really, really liked that PC version. Gorgeous version of the game. Played tremendous, even using like Xbox controllers and stuff like that, which, I mean, in fairness, like on PC gaming, Xbox controllers are kind of the standard. DualSense, DualShocks, not quite as common, though you do, for the record, especially in the context of Horizon Forbidden West, all the like trigger and rumble, stuff that and love from the PS5 version of games like Ratchet and Clank and Horizon, like that stuff is in there. For those that want it, I don't have a DualSense, so I am going without it. But for those that want to emulate that PS5 experience with the controller and the rumble and all that stuff on the PC version of Horizon Forbidden West, it is there. Back to Horizon Zero Dawn. I think Horizon Zero Dawn sets up a wonderful universe, very, I hate to say it because it sounds so cliche, but it's a very interesting lore. There is a lot to kind of dig into and uncover. I think the mystery of the true nature of Aloy, the main character, the world she finds herself in, what her role is in that world, and kind of what happened prior to the starting events of the game, are fantastic. They're super cool. I think it does a great job of setting up a very fantastic, not only world, but characters and story, right? I think from a gameplay perspective, I mean, it was Guerrilla Games' first attempt at making something that isn't a brown, green, and gray first-person shooter, you know, a la Killzone. And I'm not, no disrespect to Killzone. I fucking love Killzone. I love Killzone 2. I love Killzone 3. I even like Killzone Shadowfall. I love Killzone. I love the games that Guerrilla had done previously, prior to Horizon Zero Dawn. And I'm not trying to poo-poo them for being, you know, green, brown, gray. It's just that's what military shooters were like on this, like especially the PlayStation 3. Go type into Google like PS3 or 360 first-person shooter, and you're gonna be like, wow, that game is green, gray, and brown as shit. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. That's just the way games were at the time. Though Killzone did have a little bit more color, especially in like 3 with the snow and the jungle and all that stuff you're in. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Horizon Zero Dawn, really the only thing that like really Horizon Zero Dawn struggled with was maybe some gameplay elements. Maybe felt like you know, it was a good first attempt from a gameplay and structure and open world perspective. Without even necessarily getting into the traps of stuff that like the Warner Brothers open world games and the Ubisoft open world games of being like, oh my God, there's a zillion icons and all this stuff. Like it doesn't quite get into like, you know, open world overload to that extent. And I think its focus on story and characters works out great. Tremendous performance from a lot of the characters in the game. R.I.P. Lance Reddick, who plays Silence in Horizon Zero Dawn. He's also in Horizon Forbidden West. My only problem with Horizon Zero Dawn, and this might almost come across as hypocritical, considering how excited I have been for Horizon Forbidden West to come to PC. The only problem that I had with Horizon Zero Dawn is by the time you got to that ending, I thought it was as good of an ending as you could possibly ask for from a video game, in the sense that I finished Horizon Zero Dawn thinking to myself, well, I don't think we need a sequel to that. I think that told the story it needed to tell. It wrapped things up the way it needed to wrap things up. And then just as you are, you know, kind of getting into the context of the story, well, I'm getting some weird stream connectivity issues. We might not actually end up streaming this if streaming issues are going to be such a problem. We might just record this. We can record this. It's fine. If it's not going to record, we'll... Okay, there we go. By the time you are done with Horizon Zero Dawn, and you might feel differently than me, but I felt like that was everything that I needed that story to be, and it was done. And more importantly, we did not need a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. That is probably the thing that I really want to stress, is like finishing Horizon Zero Dawn. I was like, we don't need a sequel. I don't need to know what happens, you know, after this. I don't need to know anything. I'm good. We're done. Roll credits. And then they roll the credits on Horizon Zero Dawn, and they're like, oh, by the way, there's a sequel. And you're like, that's kind of disappointing. Again, just in the sense that like they tell such like, to give Horizon Zero Dawn credit, they tell such a well-crafted, you know, story, especially for a first attempt franchise. But franchise being the key words, because they then go on to do Horizon Zero Dawn, the Frozen Wilds, which is kind of the expansion to Horizon Zero Dawn. And then they follow that up with Horizon Forbidden West. So here we are, Horizon Forbidden West. The PC version of Horizon Forbidden West also has the Burning Shores expansion in it. So, you know, we are looking at 2 games, each game having an expansion pack. So there's a lot of Horizon out there now for people who haven't played it, or whatever the case may be. Now, for those who have not played Horizon Zero Dawn, one thing that Forbidden West really tries to emphasize is that you don't need to have played Horizon Zero Dawn to play Forbidden West. There is a huge intro video at the start of the game explaining pretty much the entire story of Zero Dawn, which is funny because I thought I was being clever by going to YouTube, and I think I watched the GameSpot version of basically GameSpot did a video being like, what happens in Horizon Zero Dawn and the Frozen Wilds expansion? What's all the story stuff you need to know to play Horizon Forbidden West? So I actually watched that video, and I was like, okay, yeah, all this stuff, yeah. I won't, again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm picking up what you were putting down. And then you launch Horizon Forbidden West, and there's like a huge video trying to summarize and explain everything about it. So I was like, I'm very well equipped in what happens in Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm a goddamn scholar. I could go teach Horizon Zero Dawn at Yale if I wanted to, because again, I'm familiar. So keep that in mind. I think going into this game, I mean, I knew there was going to be a sequel. It was very obvious there was going to be a sequel, but I just felt like Zero Dawn did such a good job from a storytelling perspective of really telling a complete story in one go. Obviously, there are things that they can improve from a technical perspective, graphics, of course, gameplay, more weapons, a bigger open world, new enemies to fight. Like they could build upon it. But, and this is the part that I really want to stress, like when we talk about sequels, right? Sequels can be a very additive experience. They are just putting more into the game and then using the story to try to find ways to justify the things that they have added, right? Some sequels try to take the pre-existing mechanics and flip them on their head or something like that. They're really trying to reinterpret, reimagine what that gameplay was like while still maintaining that same universe and characters, whatever, right? Sequels tend to do things slightly differently, right? But in the case of Horizon Forbidden West, it is 100%, or I shouldn't say 100%. It is very much a additive experience more than it is a foundational changes to the structure of that game. And that's fine, but so is the story. The story of Horizon Forbidden West really feels like they needed to come up with reasons and excuses as to why you need to keep trying to save the world. And I'm about 15 hours in. So the game came out Thursday. I started playing it just after we recorded last week's podcast, and I'm about 15 hours in, give or take. And I find the story to be very much like a much more naked approach to the carrot on the stick of like, hey, you need to go get this to do this. You need to find this person to find out why this, you got the thing that they needed you to get in the first place. It's very much that. It just feels like Aloy kind of, running around at times like a chicken with her head cut off to some extent, trying to put out these fires, trying to solve these problems. And it just, as of right now, it's not grabbing me. The game opens with a huge amount of politics to get through. You are kind of trying to get these characters together to, come to this council to make this decision so that you can go off on your hero's journey. Even though you already went on a hero's journey the first time around, you pretty much saved the world. The people that you're meeting now who are new characters know the stuff that you did in the first game to save the world, and yet they need to sit around like, twiddling their thumbs being like, well, I don't know. Is she really the one? Is she the, it just seems like a little bit of filler, a little bit of a slog, at least at the start. I will say, 6 hours in compared to 15 hours in, I think the story is definitely starting to pick up. We're definitely starting to see some, big potential problems for Aloy to overcome and also potential solutions. And I'm curious to see what happens more now than I was in at the start. But I will say, like, my first criticism of Horizon Forbidden West is, goddamn, does it open so painfully slow. And it might be because they are trying to emphasize moments of the story that you might already be familiar with if you played the game, but they're emphasizing these story moments because it is not called Horizon Zero Dawn 2. It is called Horizon Forbidden West. And I think from a marketing perspective, they are trying to entice people who did not play the first game to get into this. Do I think you should play Zero Dawn in order to play Forbidden West? I think Zero Dawn, at least from where I'm standing right now, it still looks good. It might be a PS4 game and you can run it on a PS5. You can get the PC version. Like, I still think that game looks okay, right? I won't kick it out of bed for eating cookies. But I think it has a more interesting story. Yes, it is a little more rough around the edges from a gameplay perspective, from a combat perspective, from just like the abilities and tools that you have at your disposal. But I also think that like you might not appreciate the improvements and the stuff that is added to Forbidden West if you didn't play Zero Dawn, right? Like, you know, I'll give you an example. In Forbidden West, there's a setting in the game that is a toggle that allows you to turn off the animations when you are picking flowers and herbs and resources out of the environment. It is straight up a button that says, if you want to just skip the whole animation of Aloy reaching off the ground, picking out this flower, you can just skip that. So you hit the button, she stands there, it's automatically picked up, you just go. Whereas in Zero Dawn, and correct me if I'm wrong, you do have to watch that animation of like her picking up the flower off the ground and all that stuff. And you're like, you know, it slows down the game a little bit, but also I am picking up a zillion goddamn things in Forbidden West, even more than I was in Zero Dawn. I'm picking up different flowers, I'm picking up rocks, I'm picking up sticks and twigs and branches. I'm picking out, you know, the robot parts of like, oh, this robot had a optical eye in it. This robot has an antler attached to it that I can get used to make this, and this. Like, you are picking up, you like, if it ain't nailed down, you are picking it up. And that's actually no different than Horizon Zero Dawn. You are picking up damn near everything in Zero Dawn as well, to craft arrows, to improve your bow, to do all of this stuff. But, and this is the thing I want to stress, is like, having that toggle is like, it saves me, like, it makes only save me 2 seconds, but 2 seconds times, you know, the thousands of times I'm going to be picking shit off the ground. It makes Forbidden West technically a better game. Graphically, it is gorgeous. I think graphically they're doing things a little, they have a little more of an interesting style in terms of character designs, in terms of world designs. The robot enemies that you are fighting this time around also have tremendous, some really great designs, both from a technical but also creative standpoint of like, wow, this is a crazy looking enemy, the likes of which I don't quite see in other games. Animation wise, it looks gorgeous. Running around that open world looks fucking fantastic. I bet it looks great on PS5. Horizon Forbidden West looks tremendous on PC. So you're starting to see the scenario where it's like they have technically made a better game, but they might be struggling to justify the reason why you're doing this stuff over and over again, especially in the early parts of the game. So that is, you know, kind of where I'm at with Horizon Forbidden West. I really like it, but I do not like it maybe quite as much as I did quite as much as Horizon Zero Dawn. In fairness, it is kind of a been there, done that sort of game, just with, you know, a slightly different plot point, a slightly different big bad guy, you know, slightly different things that you need to go and do in order to complete the story. But I am enjoying it. I'm glad I got it. You know, it again, just from the perspective of Sony's ability to put out fantastic PC versions of their games, I have to give them credit. You know, the team at Nix's and everyone involved have put together a gorgeous, fantastic PC version. It looks great. It runs great. I've had little to no issues with the game in terms of technical, you know, crashing or graphic issues or whatever. Like, I can pretty much turn that game's graphics up to full blast and run it at a tremendous frame rate. It looks great. It sounds great. It is a fantastic technical, version of that PS5 game. I am curious to see where that story goes more now than I did, 6 hours in. But I will also say that, like, do not play. I'll tell you right now, whether you decide to play Horizon Forbidden West because you can catch up on the story of Zero Dawn, and then just jump into Forbidden West, that's fine. You do you. But however, I'm going to suggest that if you are new to Horizon for any reason, do not play them back to back. Do not do. You would be doing yourself a genuine disservice to play those games back to back like that, especially because, you know, the Frozen Wilds adds a couple extra hours of gameplay to Zero Dawn, same way Burning Shores adds a couple of extra hours to gameplay to Forbidden West. I will say that at the menu screen, and I need to verify this because I did make a lot of story progress last night. In Forbidden West, when you launch them and you're at the main menu, it does say Burning Shores, progress story further to unlock. So I don't know what order I should be playing the Burning Shores expansion. You know, as someone who's currently making their way through, you know, the main story of Forbidden West, but there's a lot to do. There's a lot to see. Am I super interested in the side stuff? Not particularly. I actually think this is one of those open world games where I would like to focus on the story more, finish that main story. And then when I'm done, you know, maybe with, you know, some of the tools, abilities, and knowledge that I just have of the game, after finishing it, maybe then I would go back to the open world and, you know, solve the side mysteries and find the rest of the collectibles and stuff like that. And one of the reasons why I'm thinking that I might just mainline the story, is because there are a lot of collectibles and parts of the environment that are actually locked away at the start of the game. You will find a cave, you'll find these flowers in this cave, and you can't actually interact with the flowers because you don't have the tool to do so. You don't get that tool until a few more hours into the main story. So while it's cool to be able to maybe clean up the side content, you know, the side stories, the collectibles as you move through the world, you may find yourself a little burnt out. And by the time you're able to do all of the side content, because you have been, it seems like all the tools that you need to do all that side content is locked behind the story. Like you get a glider in the game, so basically you can jump off a mountain or a cliff or whatever and activate a glider and just, you know, glide through the air, paraglide through the air, which allows you to access areas that you wouldn't be able to do, you know, if you weren't able to basically glide through the air. Again, there's this ability to ignite these, like, you know, flowers to blow up, you know, openings and caves and cliffs and stuff like that to access secrets behind it. And when you look at the, you know, the inventory, there are, like, I think where I'm at in the game, like 3 other things that I'm not going to get until until I'm, you know, further into the story. So from a open world standpoint, I am of 2 minds. One, if you want to be a completionist and you want to, you know, find every collectible and talk to every, you know, side character and all that stuff, great, more power to you. It's just that in the context of Forbidden West, and I think this was the same way with Zero Dawn, you're not going to be able to do all of that stuff, at least immediately upon finding it, because of the way some of the story beats involve Aloy getting these tools and abilities that are going to make life easier later on down the road. So where are we at? I like Horizon Forbidden West. It's a gorgeous looking game. It's a fantastic PC version. There are smart, maybe small, you know, improvements over Zero Dawn from just a gameplay and ability, you know, perspective. They've improved the melee combat. So in Horizon Zero Dawn, you get a spear. You can use that spear to, you know, attack and slash enemies and all that stuff, both human and big bad robots. But this time around, they give you a little bit more of a combo system so that you can break the guard of enemies. You can stagger enemies and all of that stuff too. They give you some new weapon, you know, in terms of damage types, you know, because in, you know, Horizon, you will come across, you know, these big robots and you'll scan it with your visor or whatever. And you'll be like, oh, this robot is weak to fire and it's going to deal electrical damage at me. So, you know, to equip your, fire bow, and you scan that robot again, and it'll be like, okay, these are the parts of the robot that are weak. It has its antlers are weak, or sensitive area. Its tail is a sensitive area. Its stomach, whatever, is a sensitive area. It can blow off his legs, whatever, right? Now you might be thinking, whoa, Nitwit, hold on. I'm going to have to scan these enemies, and then use the right equipment, to tackle these, enemies in an effective way. I mean, you can use like neutral damage attacks to it. And you might accidentally finding yourself doing, if the enemy is strong to fire and you hit it with fire, then you're going to do a little bit of damage, but not enough. But I will say that, like, both in the case of Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, the game does a very, very good job of making it very easy for you to look at an enemy, figure out what its weaknesses is, and then directly attack it and engage with it however you like, whether it be stealthy, whether it be running at it. This is not like The Witcher 3, where you have to open up a fucking book and then read the book and then craft, spend a bunch of time in the menus crafting the stuff. Like, it is very approachable to be able to tackle these different monsters and different robots in Forbidden West, from a tactical perspective of like, okay, they're weak to acid, they deal lightning damage, whatever. It is not that complicated. But again, you have weapons. Like, I have a weapon now that can deal both acid damage and electric damage. I just need to switch the ammo type when I'm engaging in combat. So great. Now all of a sudden I have a weapon that can take on different types of multiple types of enemies, because it can use, different elements to attack them. So, again, there's a lot to maybe wrap your mind around the first time around, which is why I'm still not too sure whether you should bother playing Zero Dawn or not. In terms of preparing yourself for Forbidden West, I think Zero Dawn is a great game. And I think Forbidden West is really, really good. And, looking at how long to beat, it seems like I'm maybe, after 15 hours, I'm maybe a quarter of the way through that game. Maybe, like, it's really hard to say, because, if I focus on the main story and then I don't do a lot of the side content, that game percentage completion might say, 64% done, by the time the credits roll, despite not me doing everything. And of course there's Burning Shores to take into account as well. So Forbidden West, I'm really enjoying it, but I am not loving it quite the same way I loved Zero Dawn, at least from a storytelling perspective. The story after about 15 hours is picking up, at least in my opinion. So I'm curious to see where that story goes. But it does not shake the feeling that it's kind of a been there, done that. Did we really need to do this again? Are we there yet? Are we done yet? Sort of feeling compared to Zero Dawn. We have some huge game developer sales and acquisition news to get through. We're going to kick things off with Take-Two. Take-Two is acquiring. Take-Two is acquiring Borderlands developer Gearbox from Embracer Group for a cool $460 million. 2K, which is owned by parent company Take-Two. Take-Two owns, people like Rockstar and things like that. They also own 2K and all of that stuff. 2K, being the publishers of the Borderlands games, 2K has confirmed that the next Borderlands game is in active development to go alongside this purchase of Gearbox. So now Take-Two is going to own Gearbox, $460 million. They also own all the Borderlands stuff now, right? So I'm assuming at some point that Borderlands 2 movies, or sorry, that Borderlands movie is coming out. I don't know. But it seems like there were rumors and references to a Borderlands 4 and a Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2, both being in development. I don't know if both of those games are still ongoing, but 2K at least saying that one of the, at least a Borderlands game is in development. This is a quote from the president of Take-Two publishing label 2K, saying, quote, "With nearly 20 years of history working together, Gearbox has played an integral role in our success given their unique ability to create interactive entertainment experiences that feature beloved characters, exciting new worlds, and humorous storytelling. Now, I'm going to stop you right there. I don't mean to do this this early into the podcast, but I'm going to tell you right now that I think the Borderlands games are fantastic. At least some of the Borderlands games are fantastic. I think Borderlands 1 is a pretty good game. I think if you skip over some of the, so basically Borderlands 1's a fantastic game. I think if you skip over a couple of the other sequels and then find yourself playing another Borderlands game, you will find that they have done enough changes over time to make it feel like a fresh and exciting game. So for example, if I were to recommend people play Borderlands, I would be like, you should probably play like 1. I don't know how great 1 holds up, but I think so basically what I'm saying is I think Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is a great game. I think they're them kind of changing Borderlands from more of a sci-fi shooter to more of a fantasy, role-playing style shooter, your Dungeons and Dragons-esque shooting experience, I think worked out really well for them. However, one of my, and the thing I like about Borderlands is I like shooting shit. I like leveling up my character after shooting a bunch of shit, so I get new abilities to allow me to better shoot shit in the game. I like getting new guns and weapons and all of that stuff. And I like just running around shooting stuff in Borderlands. The thing I don't like about Borderlands is they have some awful characters, just awful, annoying, clawing characters. It's so bad. I think some of the worlds are pretty fun. I think some of the level design can be pretty decent in Borderlands. You find yourself in fun, I found myself on a planet that's like a weird old-timey Western planet. And this Western old-timey Wild West planet has a haunted mansion in it. Now I'm going to shoot a bunch of, like robot cowboy, a ghost robot. This is how Borderlands works. In the weird sense of humor. It's like, I'm going to go shoot a bunch of ghost robot cowboys inside this haunted mansion. And then I'm going to go to another planet that's like some weird Mad Max type, marauder business. And that's kind of how it operates. But again, I think from the perspective of like the main characters in Borderlands, really, really awful. And I think the humorous storytelling, Borderlands is a game that really tries to be funny, and 9 times out of 10 is painfully unfunny. So I'm going to have to correct David Ismailer, president of Take-Two publishing label 2K. I think they make fun first-person shooters with fun leveling up mechanics and loot and abilities, and the level design can be fun. But I can't tell you a single character that I actually like. It'd be easier for me to name characters I dislike in Borderlands than like in Borderlands. And from a humor storytelling, I think after 1, that sense of humor just goes off a goddamn cliff. But I find Tiny Tina's Wonderlands to at least get the shooting right, get the world design right, get the abilities and character upgrades right. The loot is good. And I find that the characters are less offensive, bad, and the humorous writing is less annoying than past games. But I think if you're looking for a terrific, kind of first-person shooter RPG thing, I think Borderlands has been consistent, if nothing else. Though I would argue that some of those games can be hit or miss because it feels like they're just doing it over again with a new story and setting, versus actually trying to improve on mechanical, stuff, right? It's the problem with sequels is like, do we just tell another story with the same stuff, or do we try to actually make the game better or different, right? And I feel like Borderlands at times, especially with Borderlands 2 and 3, maybe a little uneven in how they approach that stuff. They continue on with a quote saying, "We are thrilled to welcome Randy Pitchford and his team of passionate, talented developers to 2K, and we look forward to releasing numerous projects in the future as colleagues. We have loved partnering with Gearbox on every iteration of the Borderlands franchise and are excited to be in active development on the next installment in the series." Last month, Gearbox co-founder and CEO Randy Pitchford teased what appeared to be an update on Borderlands 4 that was a few months ago. there wasn't much to tease. So I don't know why they're even referring to it as such a nothing thing that Randy Pitchford said at the time. Now, in an interview with IGN, Randy Pitchford was asked what his personal favorite game in the Borderlands series was. Rather than naming an existing game, Pitchford instead started talking about a project that was in development without specifically saying it was a Borderlands title. He said, "Look, we haven't even announced anything of it." He replied, "Clearly we're working on something, and I know what we're working on, and holy shit, it's the greatest thing we've ever done. And I can't wait, but it's not time yet. It's not time yet. There will be time." So basically, Randy Pitchford's favorite game in the Borderlands series has not even come out yet. He's a weird guy. It's a weird series, but I do the Borderlands games that I love, I really, really like. And the Borderlands, like I probably played through Borderlands 1 like at least 2 or 3 times. I played through Borderlands 2 twice. I played through Borderlands 3 1.5 times. I never did actually finish Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, but I think it's good. Like, listen, I played the shit out of these games. But again, I think the thing I come to it is the gameplay, less so the writing and story. Despite Gearbox being owned by Embracer, Take-Two had already had a long-term publishing deal with the studio for the Borderlands franchise and other titles, meaning that Embracer Group sold Gearbox, and if they hadn't, and Gearbox kept making Borderlands games, Embracer Group probably wouldn't even see that much of the money because Take-Two would be splitting that money between Gearbox and themselves. So 2K and Take-Two publishing a game made by a developer that's owned by Embracer Group probably wasn't going to see that much money to begin with, which is why they were better off selling the game to the publisher, Take-Two, 2K anyways, because what was Embracer Group going to get out of the deal? Probably not much. Take-Two said last month that the Borderlands franchise had sold in over 83 million units since launching in 2009. Borderlands, very, very popular game. The most recent mainline entry in the series, Borderlands 3, which came out in 2019, is 2K's fastest selling title and has sold over 19 million copies. Borderlands 2 is 2K's top selling game since the label's inception, with over 28 million copies sold. Like I said, Borderlands fucking popular as shit, dog. What else is there to say? Pitchford said, joining forces with Take-Two Interactive and 2K will help Gearbox ascend to our next level. Take-Two and 2K have demonstrated repeatedly their commitment to our engine of generating creativity, happiness, and profit. We set the bar for interactive entertainment and achieved remarkable results with groundbreaking, record-setting games when we worked together at arm's length as partners. I'm incredibly excited about what we can accomplish now that we fully aligned as one. But that is not all when it comes to major game developer sales and acquisitions. Oh, no. Sega is selling Relic Entertainment and cutting 240 jobs in Europe. I'm getting this news story from Video Games Chronicles. As always, shout out to Video Games Chronicles. Sega selling Relic and cutting jobs in Europe. Now this one hits close to home. Selfishly, it hits close to home, but that's okay. Because Relic Entertainment, if you don't know, is based in Vancouver. Vancouver, Canada-based Relic specializes in real-time strategy games, including the Company of Heroes games, Age of Empires, and Homeworld. Sega said it is selling Relic to a holding company to be newly established by the UK investment company Emona Capital LLP, but that further details weren't being disclosed due to the request of the transferee. The majority of the 240 jobs cut will be at Creative Assembly and Sega Europe, with a smaller number also being cut at Sega Hardlight, all three of which are based in UK. So this is just a two-parter story here. Selling Relic, cutting jobs. Following a review of the medium-term lineup of its European studios, Sega also said it has decided to implement write-downs of work in progress for some titles in development. As a result, it expects to record a loss of 5.6 billion yen as cost of sales. 5.6 billion yen equates to about $31 million. Sega is working closely with Relic on this shift, and we wish them the best for the future. Newly appointed Sega Europe head Jurgen Post told staff via GameIndustry.biz, quote, I want to sincerely apologize for the worry and understandable distress this news will cause, particularly for those directly affected. These decisions have been incredibly tough to make, and they follow meticulous consideration and deliberation with leadership teams across the business. Why do all of these fucking talking heads in these game industry companies say the same bullshit? It was incredibly hard to make. We thought about it. Oh, I could lost sleep. Wife wouldn't even look at me because I was just so worried about what I was going to do with all these people's lives in my hands. But anyways, we're letting you go, or we're selling you, and good luck with that. Quote, change is necessary to secure the future of our games business and to ensure that we are well placed to deliver the best possible experience to our players going forward. More Sonic the Hedgehog games for everyone. Quote, he didn't say that. I said that. You can tell when I'm not directly quoting. I got after 87 episodes, I sure hope so. Quote, let's keep going. Quote, we need to streamline, focus on what we are good at, and position ourselves as best we can for the road ahead. In order to do that, we need to respond to the changing economic landscape and the challenges we're facing in the way we develop our products and bring them to market. Sega Europe had laid off 121 employees at Relic in May of 2023, and last September, following the cancellation of some projects from its European studios, including Creative Assembly's Hyenas. I don't remember. Creative Assembly working on Hyenas. They cut a further 250 jobs. So they can't fire anybody else at Relic anymore, so they're just going to sell them. Which is a damn shame. Relic has put out a statement, a follow-up story, saying that they will continue to support its existing games after being sold by Sega. Sega putting out and publishing a lot of those Relic games. And they will continue to work on those games. In its own statement, Relic said, with an external investor, Relic Entertainment will become an independently run development studio. This is a huge change for us, but one thing does not change. We want to create amazing experiences for our players. To our fans, we want to assure you we will continue to support our titles, including Company of Heroes 3. We're looking forward to the 1.6 update in April, loaded with new content and features requested by our community. Quote, we want to thank Sega, whose support over the years and guidance during this transition has been instrumental to our success. We may be out of the Sega business, but we remain friends and colleagues. Yeah, it's like being friends with your ex. Listen, if you want to be friends with your ex, that's fine. Some people, like, life gets weird and they have to, or whatever. Also, this isn't a fucking dating advice podcast. This is a goddamn video games podcast. So just sit on the couch, be single, and play video games. I'm going to continue on with this Relic statement. Quote, we are excited about this next chapter for Relic. I hope you will all join us in creating new experiences for our fans worldwide. I don't know. It doesn't look good. Like when I just think about like letting go so many people and then just selling what's left. What's this investment, investor getting? Like, I don't quite know. Are they getting the games, like the properties that Relic made? I don't know. But I'm going to quickly take a look at Relic Entertainment for a moment. I'm going to go to their Wikipedia page. I'm going to go to games and I'm going to go and take a look at the kind of the last couple of games. So what? Oh, I see. Okay. So let's take a look. So the last game that Relic put out was Company of Heroes 3. Originally came out February 23rd last year. After that, they did Age of Empires 4. But I guess that Age of Empires is now being taken over by World's Edge, so I don't know how much more Relic will be involved with that series. But yeah, the last game they put out was just last year. Hey, listen, shout out to everyone at Relic, still holding it down. I wish them the best of luck. That has gotta suck, and I'm not just saying that because shout out to the Vancouver homies. I'm just saying, like, to get gutted like that and then get sold, like, that has seriously got to impact your ability to continue to make games and support the games that you already are working on. So I do wish them the best of luck. We are now out of the woods in terms of game developer sales and layoffs and stuff like that. For now, hey, you never know. In fact, something could explode while I'm recording this, and we may never know. However, we do have some other news to get to. Big game reveal. Well, is it a big game reveal? We'll find out. Marvel's Rivals has been revealed as a 6 versus 6 team shooter from Call of Duty and Battlefield developers. The game will be free to play with a closed alpha coming in May. It is a 6 versus 6 multiplayer shooter. It's a third-person shooter for those curious, but it is a multiplayer shooter. They have confirmed a handful of characters for the game so far. Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Groot, Hulk, Iron Man, Loki, Luna Snow, Magic, Magneto, Namor, Penny Parker, Rocket Raccoon, and Spider-Man. And there's a trailer. You can go watch it. I watched it. It looks a lot like Overwatch. It is very much that sort of class-based, ability-based shooter type thing, which, I don't know, like, maybe I would just go play Overwatch instead of this, but maybe Overwatch, and we're going to get to Overwatch later on in the show, but maybe I'm actually better off playing this than Overwatch. We'll see. But teammates will be able to create combination abilities in which specific characters can team up to create new attacks. The example given was Rocket Raccoon riding on Groot's back to create a dangerous duo, or Hulk charging Iron Man's armor with gamma energy for extra damage. Bunch of environments announced for the game, which will include Asgard and Tokyo 99. NetEase says they will be destructible. Use superpowers to alter these environments, reshape the terrain, and craft a strategic advantage on the battlefield. As stated, Marvel Rivals will be free to play, and each season will introduce new characters and maps. I'm going to just stop talking about this because if you want to, go watch the trailer. It will make a lot of sense once you see it. If you see it, and closed alpha for those curious in May. I don't know, maybe I should sign up for that. If it's a closed alpha, I probably wouldn't be able to talk about it. Or maybe I will be able to talk about it. I don't know, but you know what? Let's go to the internet right now. Marvel Rivals. Can I sign up for a closed alpha? Can I do that? I don't see a way to do that. You know what? It doesn't matter. Let's move on. This next news story is one of the biggest news stories of the year. And you might think, GnittWitt, why didn't you lead off on it? And frankly, it's because I think the cost of human lives as it relates to their livelihood in the sale and, closing of studios is a much bigger deal. But if you ask me, this next announcement blew me away. I don't want to say speechless because that would make for a really bad podcast, but I was just so taken aback by this news story. I really didn't know what to say when I first saw it. And preparing myself to present it to you now it's taking a lot because, well, let's just rip the Band-Aid off, okay? This next news story is about Cheech and Chong coming to Call of Duty. That's right. The famous comedy duo, the weed smoking comedy duo, Cheech and Chong, are going to be playable in Call of Duty. You heard it here first. I'm getting this news story from Kotaku. Maybe Video Games Chronicles did not see it as important enough to write about. But Cheech and Chong, you might know them from the 70s, the 80s, from their comedy albums and movies, will be added to Call of Duty as part of the upcoming Season 3. An iconic stoner duo, Tommy Chong and Cheech Marin, doesn't matter, don't seem like the kind of guys who would grab M4s and shoot people, and that's Kotaku's words, not mine. For context, the two created films and comedy routines focused on hippies, free love, drugs, and counterculture ideas, and there's nothing more counterculture than the most popular first-person shooter in the world. There's nothing more counterculture than military men shooting motherfuckers in the face. However, the Activision machine demands more, and so in they go, with the publisher confirming in a new blog post that the duo are headed to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Warzone, and Warzone Mobile. Remember, Warzone Mobile now available free to play on your phone sometime next month. So, we don't know officially when the duo will be playable in Call of Duty's various multiplayer offerings. Other weed-inspired cosmetics for the game, including Blaze It Up, seem to point towards Cheech and Chong arriving on 420. Hey, stop me if you've heard this one before. The weed guys are going to be in Call of Duty, and they're coming on 420. Oh my God. This is so funny. Okay, so they put out, so Activision put out a statement on their blog. Okay, and it is, I don't have any more jokes for this news story because nothing is funnier than this corporate speak from Activision about Cheech and Chong. It's like fucking a robot wrote this. Here we go. This is a quote from Activision's lengthy blog post about Cheech and Chong coming to Call of Duty. Here we go. Forged in the counterculture revolution, yet armed with drive and creative power, Tommy Chong and Cheech Marin turned cultural friction into comedic success. Facing systemic barriers with humor and cannabis, the duo exploited adversity to bring underground voices into the mainstream. Chong's ingenuity and Marin's heritage primed them for fame, while their comedic chemistry made them icons. Their albums and films exposed injustice with subversive joy, pioneering stoner comedy, and becoming symbols of irreverent truth. What? What is it? That doesn't. Okay. Keep in mind that, this is the same game that has Snoop Dogg in it, right? Like Snoop Dogg is in Call of Duty, right? I don't know if his smokeless grill is in Call of Duty or not, but Snoop Dogg is in Call of Duty. So really, all you need is the guy from your high school that never left his hometown, and you will have a team of badass stoners in Call of Duty. But yeah, Cheech and Chong coming to Call of Duty. I'm just disappointed they're not coming to Fortnite, because I'm more of a Fortnite guy than I am whatever. Does it even matter? Does anything even matter anymore? I'm just sitting here. I don't. Well, okay. You can play as Snoop Dogg in Call of Duty. You can play as Cheech and Chong in Call of Duty. Who the fuck? Can't you play as Lara Croft? Isn't Lara Croft? Does Lara Croft smoke weed? Lara Croft does not seem, and I'm not just saying that because she seems like an uptight British lady. I'm going to type in Lara Croft weed into the internet. There is a strain of marijuana called Tomb Raider. Okay, we're getting somewhere. I'm going to type in Call of Duty weed into the internet and see what we get. CallOfDuty.com. Okay, all right. Okay, so if you go to Call of Duty, the Call of Duty website right now, There is what they're calling the Blunt Force Drama Tracer Pack. It is 2,400 Call of Duty points, which I don't know how many points you need per dollars, but when you buy the Blunt Force Drama Pack in Call of Duty, you get a ghillie suit, like the leaf ghillie suit that the snipers wear when they're hiding in the bush or whatever. Except this is the bush that you'd be burning because it's weed leaves on the ghillie suit. There is something called Pure Indica, which is a gun. From the looks of things, it's like a purple gun with a weed leaf on it. And then there's something called Bullet Dispensary, which is another gun that you get as part of this. You get an emblem that says the Munchies. You get so you get like a couple of like character icons and God, what? I guess I get, why is Call of Duty the weed game? I guess probably because they don't want weed in Fortnite because Fortnite is for the children. And also, I'm going to be honest with you, the people that are playing Call of Duty are probably old people because who the fuck know? Like, no offense. No, listen, I love like Cheech Chong, great. No problem with them. I'm just talking from like a pure marketing and like who these players are. The kids that are playing Fortnite know John Cena. They know Spider-Man 2049. They might know Peter Griffin. I would like to think the kids know Peter Griffin. They might know who, Goku is or the Mandalorian. I'm just thinking of things that were in Fortnite for a moment. Do the kids know who Cheech and Chong are? I don't. You know what? If I was like Jay Leno, like a man on the street, going around asking people, if I went to where the kids are, I don't know where the kids are, but if I went to where the kids are and I said, do you know who Cheech and Chong are? The kids would probably say no. And then if I said, do you know what a Call of Duty is? They would probably be like, oh yeah, my dad plays Call of Duty. So I guess it makes sense. I wonder how much Cheech and Chong are going to cost when they come to Call of Duty. I don't own Call of Duty, or Modern War. I mean, I guess I could play Warzone as Cheech and or Chong. I've talked about this news story for far too long. We need to move on before I die. Here's some news for you. Some serious hard-hitting news, and I'm not joking when I say that. So, rumors are going around that the Xbox sales aren't doing so well. That's what some publishers are reporting now, right? It's not just, Xbox going out there saying stuff, people rumoring. Like, now we have publishers being like, hey, the Xbox just isn't quite doing much for us. Now, one of the things that these publishers are saying is that at some point, Microsoft is planning to bring a majority of Xbox games to PS5 at some point. As of right now, there's only 4, those 4 being Sea of Thieves, Grounded, Pentiment, and Hi-Fi Rush. Now, according to GameIndustry.biz, Chris Dring, who said his takeaway from GDC, which is the Game Developers Conference, which happened last week, he thinks that Xbox is in real trouble as a hardware manufacturer. Chris says, the other thing I heard it from a very prominent company, and one not so prominent, was Xbox's performance in Europe is just flatlining. Quote, you can't follow our monthly coverage in games market. Quote, you can follow our monthly coverage in the games market and you can see that Xbox sales are falling. It's been falling all throughout last year and it's falling even harder this year. The phrase one major company who released a big game last year said, quote, was, I don't know why we bothered supporting it being Xbox. Quote, we mentioned on a previous podcast that we had heard retailers in Europe are considering or already been cutting back their Xbox stock on their shelves, hardware, games, that kind of thing. And now you've got third-party publishers going, quote, we're putting in a lot of effort trying to create Xbox Series S version and an X version of a game when, to be honest, for us, the market is PC and PS5. Now, last year, Microsoft admitted to having, quote, lost the console wars after consistently ranking third behind PlayStation and Nintendo in terms of sales since entering the market with the original Xbox in 2001. PS5 has sold Xbox Series X and S around 2-to-1 globally as of the end of 2023, according to data shared by Grand Theft Auto publisher Take-Two. And in February, Microsoft delivered an Xbox business update which confirmed reports that it's planning to bring more first-party games to PlayStation and or Switch in the form of Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded. Xbox has also reportedly weighed up the idea of releasing Gears of War, Microsoft Flight Simulator, the next Doom game, Starfield, and Indiana Jones for rival consoles, and boss Phil Spencer recently told The Verge, quote, I don't think we should, as an industry, ever rule out a game going to any other platforms. Now, Chris Dring continued saying, and with Xbox putting some of the games on PS5, from what I understand, the majority of them will be coming across at some point, assuming it progresses as Xbox believes it probably will. I think Xbox is in real trouble as a hardware manufacturer, and that was the thing that came out of GDC for me. He added, I thought it would be fine, but then I didn't really factor in that some developers and publishers might just go, yeah, I don't know. Is there any point? And that is when you can lose it. Now, one thing I just want to kind of note here is that Microsoft is a massive first party developer at this point. Like they bought Bethesda, right? They bought Activision. They own all this shit. There is the possibility that Microsoft ends up actually taking inspiration from Nintendo, and I'll explain why. So Nintendo is not the place to play third-party games. If you want to play Resident Evil 2, if you want to play, Skyrim, if you want to play The Witcher 3, if you want to play Tekken or Mortal Kombat, this Nintendo Switch is not the console I would recommend people go buy to play those types of games. I wouldn't recommend it. It doesn't quite look as good. Those games don't often run as well. They may not always get the same support. They might come out way later than, other console versions and PC versions. However, Nintendo puts out some fantastic games like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And by doing that, and Mario and Donkey Kong and, Pikmin and Princess Peach, Showtime, and Animal Crossing, all of these Mario Kart, Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, Mario, thinks about ending it all, whatever the other Mario. No, I'm joking. Nintendo is really good at making consoles that are the best and only place, without getting into piracy, that you can get to play their games, right? Like, the reason you buy a Nintendo console, or should buy a Nintendo console, in my opinion, is to play Nintendo games, right? Because Nintendo does it like nobody else, right? And I think that there's a potential for Microsoft to actually do that with Xbox. Let me explain. So let's say they put out Indiana Jones on PS5. Let's say they do. If everything is equal and you don't own one of the consoles already, or you don't own a PC, and you wanted to play Indiana Jones, well, I would say that the best way to play Indiana Jones is probably on an Xbox. Why? Because you buy an Xbox and you buy Game Pass and you don't need to buy Indiana Jones anymore. Game Pass is never going to come. I'll put my foot in my mouth right now. Potentially have to eat a hat down the road somehow. I don't think Game Pass is ever coming to Game Pass is ever coming to PlayStation. Never. You'll get the Ubisoft subscription, you'll get the EA subscription, but I just do not think, because what's the point, right? Like, Microsoft would just lose money selling a full price version of a game that you could on a rival console who's going to take 30% cut anyways, and then turn around and give you like a $10, $15 subscription. No way. If you want to play Indiana Jones on a PlayStation 5, you're probably going to have to pay full price for that game if and when it comes out. But buy an Xbox, get a PC, and then all of a sudden you are not paying full price for the next Call of Duty. You're not paying full price for the next Starfield. You're not paying full price for Fallout. You're not paying full price for whatever other Activision thing they have going on, right? So to me, I think Microsoft, if they could put out badass first party games, if they could actually like get down that path of putting out fantastic, first party games, then maybe they could have a better argument of like, well, you should buy an Xbox. So then, that's the easiest and cheapest place to play our games if you don't already own a console. Right? Because who wants to pay $80+ to play Indiana Jones on a PS5? Maybe it's going to be amazing. I don't know. But between the two of like $15 a month or $80 for a game, I think I know where I'm going to go. So if they could find a way to position themselves as that between PC and, console on PC and Xbox while also selling their games elsewhere, they might be in a situation where, the flatlining of sales may not be as big of a difference, but it also might upset publishers more in that regard, because now all of a sudden Xbox is focusing on the things that they wholly own and can do whatever they want with, versus being at the mercy of a developer, like Ubisoft, for example, who's like, man, no one bought the Xbox version of Avatar or whatever. But we'll see. It's interesting, the uphill battle that Xbox has in front of it. Phil Spencer did put out a quick statement recently talking about the youth. He's talking about the youngins, the little ones. Specifically talking about his Xbox pivoting to being a more multi-platform, game developer, right? One of their inspirations, for lack of a better word, of putting out Grounded and Sea of Thieves on PlayStation is actually driven by Gen Z habits, saying that younger players want to be able to access content wherever they want. And I think that makes sense, right? So we have these Gen Zs, right? They grew up, their first computer was an iPad or an iPhone or whatever, right? Stuff like that. Here's the beautiful thing about having that technology is that when you launch, an app, let's say a video streaming app, Netflix, whatever, YouTube, Apple TV, any of that stuff, when you access it on your iPad, it's the exact same experience as accessing it on your phone. It's the exact same experience as accessing it on your TV. It's the exact same experience as accessing it on your Mac computer, on your Windows computer, on your PlayStation, on your Xbox, on your whatever, right? That is the thing that, trained Gen Z to be like, well, the content is wherever I want to watch the content, wherever I want to access the content. What do you, I can play, all these different games on, Call of Duty Warzone on my phone, on my PC, on my Xbox, on my whatever, right? What do you mean I can't play Sea of Thieves, with my friend who owns an Xbox because I don't own, because it's not on PS5? It makes a lot of sense, right? And actually, to give the kids credit, old heads like me, old men like me benefit from that, because then I can sit on my phone and watch something, watch TV, and then finish that episode on my iPad and then watch the next episode on my TV. It's a beautiful thing. Content and the ability to access it has never been better. Yes, there are prices in terms of streaming services and all of that stuff, but the fact is that like you can watch shit on your phone, watch it on your tablet, watch it on your TV. It's a beautiful thing. So it makes a lot of sense to try to meet people where they're at. And one of the largest, audiences for gaming are those Gen Z kids, right? Are those younger people, right? I'm a millennial. As far as I'm concerned, like I'm one of the older people out there still playing games to some extent. I might make up like the 45% of the older people that play games at this point, but like there's a huge amount of that audience that are younger people, and it just makes sense to meet them where they're at, right? It makes 100% to do that. And I think that is a reality that, companies like Sony might need to realize sooner rather than later is, Helldivers was really popular because mostly everybody got a chance to play it upon release between PlayStation 5 and PC, right? So the people that owned a PC got to play it with people who owned PS5s. The only people who missed out were Xbox. Sorry, Xbox. But you see what I'm saying? You see what I'm kind of getting at is like, you need to put the content where the people are, and people are kind of everywhere now, which means you got to put that content in just about every imaginable place. Real quick news story. Days Gone developer Sony Bend Studio is working on a AAA live service game. A new job listing wants candidates with experience in live operations. So I guess Sony Bend not working on a sequel to Days Gone. I just want to remind people about Days Gone. I know if you've been listening to this podcast since like day one, you know everything about Days Gone because I've talked about Days Gone on this very podcast. But I never want to miss the opportunity to talk about the greatest video game of all time, Days Gone. Back in 2011, Sony confirmed that Bend was working on a new IP, which was, quote, building on the deep open world systems that they developed with Days Gone. It's not clear if the job being advertised is for the same product or the same project, right? So if Sony Bend was working on an open world game, that open world game could be the same live service game that they're currently hiring for. I don't know. However, I just want to bring back to Days Gone because it's clear that if they're working on an open world game, it's not a sequel to Days Gone. If they're working on a live service game, it's not a sequel to Days Gone. Days Gone was met with mixed reviews when it released on PS4 in 2019, resulting in a Metacritic score of 71, but developed a cult following. It's undeniable that some people enjoy Days Gone, right? There's no doubt about it. This is the part I really wanted to get at. A few years later, the game director, John Garvin, who had by then left Sony Bend Studio, blamed the critical reception on technical issues and, quote, woke reviewers, who he claims couldn't be bothered to play the game, claims that Sony Bend Studios then had to subsequently distance themselves from. Remember when John Garvin got up there talking about woke gamers, woke reviewers? I am like this close. I shouldn't do this. I have my time is worth more. I am this close to going and buying Days Gone on PC and recording myself playing every last moment of that game that I can physically stand. I am this like because I think it would be funny in a like torturous way, the same way that like watching the Saw movies in Hostel is funny. The same reason pushing a child in the playground is funny. The same reason laughing about the Titanic is funny. It's not funny, but it's torturous. The point is, I am like this close to trying to prove a point with Days Gone. I just think my time is better spent elsewhere, especially in a world where I'm not done Horizon Forbidden West and I'm looking forward to playing Ghost of Tsushima, two open world Sony games that are far and away better than Days Gone. Is Days Gone the worst game ever made? No, is not. People probably give it too much shit than it actually deserves, because honestly, 71 isn't that bad of a review score, all things considered. You have probably watched 7 out of 10 movies in your lifetime and have been like, actually, that was pretty good. I enjoyed that, right? I don't know, like, let's go to fucking Rotten Tomatoes for a moment. Why am I even doing this? The tangents we have gone on this episode, I apologize. I'm going to go to movies just for a moment, and I'm going to look up some recent movies and see what the review scores are. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 is at 50%. You might watch that and be like, actually, the movie was all right. I don't know. Kung Fu Panda 2 has a 72. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire has a 44%. There is a good chance that you might watch one of these movies and be like, actually, this movie's okay. This movie is okay. What did that, I'm going to go to Rotten Tomatoes for one other moment. Type in Roadhouse. That's what I'm going to do. 2024 is Roadhouse. Roadhouse has a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. Roadhouse is the remake of Roadhouse, 59% on Rotten Tomatoes. Are you going to sit here and tell me that that movie is almost as bad as it is good? Probably not. Am I going to sit here and tell you that Days Gone is almost as bad as it is good? No, but it's not but I am not trying to compare Roadhouse to Days Gone. That's a terrible idea because I don't think I would be able to cohesively come up with an argument one way or the other. But I'm just saying, shit gets like low middle scores all the time and isn't actually as bad as people say it is. And I hate that I have to come to Days Gone's defense, but that's actually where I think I'm at this point. It's not as bad, but it's not great. And I'm hopeful that Sony Ben can come up with something better than that. It's just a shame that it might be a live service game. We have a few more news stories, then we're going to wrap this podcast up. I know we're getting a little long and getting a little crazy. Spyro and Crash Bandicoot Studio, Toys for Bob has reportedly agreed to partner with Microsoft on its next game. If you remember, the developer left Activision and went independent following the purchase of Activision by Microsoft, and now they are teaming up with Microsoft for their next game. So Microsoft's going to publish whatever the next game is by Toys for Bob. Resident Evil 9. Rumors going around that Resident Evil 9 could be an open world game. I don't know what that means. Like, don't ask me what, like, I know what, listen, I know what I've played a lot. As someone who put 96 hours into fucking, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the name almost escaped me. I know what an open world game is. I don't know what a Resident Evil game could be in the context of open world, but if they want to do that, more power to them. The problem is that the problem with making an open world horror game is that you need to be on this relatively narrow path in order to create tension and then release that tension in the form of a scare, a jump scare, a reveal, or whatever, right? So if I'm just rummaging around this open world, poking at different environments and stuff, it might be hard to create that sense of tension because I'm not always going where the developer originally intended on me going to, because I'm wandering off doing a side quest. I'm looking for collectibles. I'm whatever, right? So while there were larger semi-open environments, especially in Resident Evil 8 Village, I would not call Resident Evil 8 Village an open world game whatsoever. Like, there's a village that you run around in, there's castles, there's all this stuff, and they can be quite large. But no, I would also say that, especially with both Resident Evil 7 and 8 Village, the deeper you get into those games, the further you get into those games, the more that they start to actually funnel you into narrower and narrower environments as the story ramps up and as the tension ramps up. So at some point, I feel like if they did an open world game, it would probably stop being an open world at some point in the game because they need you to get to the end of the game and see the big scares and see the big story reveals. However, I trust Capcom with Resident Evil. I have fucking loved Resident Evil 2 remake, 3 remake. I love the 3 remake as well. I got nothing against it. It's a little short, little narrow, but whatever. I like Resident Evil 2 remake. I love 3. I love 4. I love 7. I love 8 Village. They can do whatever the hell they want with that series, and I will be there with bells on. Speaking of Resident Evil, creator of Resident Evil, Shinji Mikami, has established a new game. Mikami, if you don't remember, made The Evil Within 1 and 2. He established Tango Gameworks. Tango Gameworks also put out Hi-Fi Rush. He left Hi-Fi Rush studio Tango Gameworks in 2023 and is now founded Kamui. There's no other details. That's it. This is also coming from the website that has the Shadows of the Damned remastered on it. Shinji Mikami worked on Shadows of the Damned. Oh, I forgot they're doing a Shadows of the Damned remake. Oh, I hope that game holds up. I love one of the most underrated third-person horror comedy shooters of all time. And there's not a lot of them. God. Sorry, I'm getting distracted looking at the Shadows of the Damned remastered. I cannot wait for that. I don't know when that's coming out. But anyways, that website that has the Shadow of the Damned remastered information on it says that Shinji Mikami has founded a new studio. And then one more news story. I told you I would talk about Overwatch, and damn it, we're going to talk about Overwatch. If you don't remember, one of the reasons why Blizzard and Activision tried to justify the existence of... This podcast is really all about justifying the existence of sequels, it seems like, between talking about Horizon, and talking about the Borderlands games, and talking about Overwatch. It seems harder than ever to make a sequel to something, despite the game industry being such a hit-driven business and being such a focus on sequels and remakes and remasters and trilogies and reboots and all that stuff, prequels and all that stuff. I mean, hell, there was a Borderlands game that was literally called Borderlands the Pre-Sequel. The Pre-Sequel. It was a pre-sequel. I don't know how you do a pre-sequel, but Borderlands did it. You were on the moon. It was weird. Anyways, Overwatch 2's future player versus environment, the PvE content, has reportedly been permanently canceled. If you remember, they had two ideas for Overwatch 2 when they were developing it. One was these big single player story missions, and then the other was going to be these a hero, a smaller hero sized story missions, a much smaller scale, more cheaper to produce. And seems like that ain't happening. Like none of that single player story content that they promised as part of Overwatch 2 is coming out. One thing they are doing with Overwatch 2 is that they are making the heroes free at release, starting with the launch of Season 10 in mid-April. Previously, the game came out with a handful of characters, and then every time they added new characters, you had to pay to buy those characters. Now they will all be free, probably because not enough people are playing Overwatch 2 to want to spend money on additional content in Overwatch 2, because is Overwatch 2 dead? I know we talked about, what was it? Payday 3 being a dead game. Is Overwatch 2, I mean, it seems like it's dying, but is it dead? I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens with Season 10 to find out. But that's going to do it for the podcast. We're going to have more content next week. Next week is WrestleMania week, which I know people are like, isn't WrestleMania actually the weekend? Actually, no, it's not. It might as well be an entire week, because WrestleMania week, as far as I'm concerned, starts Thursday and runs until, well, I don't know. I guess it runs until Monday when you really think about it, because Raw is on, Raw's on Monday, the day after Mania. But the point is that I'm going to try to create as much content as humanly possible while watching as much wrestling as humanly possible starting next week. So a couple things I just want to quickly note is I'm going to be streaming on Wednesday. We're going to Wildcard Wednesday will continue. We're going to have a fun stream on Wednesday next week. No problem. We will be doing the podcast live. I did have issues with streaming, so this didn't end up being a streaming show because the internet kept cutting out for some weird reason. For whatever reason. So we were going to try to stream that podcast on Thursday, but it will have to be early because I have to get the wrestling on. I got to start watching wrestling at 11 a.m. So maybe come back at say like 9. Well, let's aim for 9 a.m. Streaming start time for the podcast on Thursday. And I will be streaming regular 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Friday as well. So look out for that. I'll just have to catch up on all the wrestling that I plan on watching later. But yeah, come on back next week. We'll have more to talk about as it relates to Horizon Forbidden West. Hopefully I'm closer to being done Forbidden West and I don't get sidetracked, but I seem pretty focused on the story for now anyways. And that's going to do it for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree, linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. More TikToks coming soon. I got to record more of those. And we will see you all next week. Take it easy.